So hello, hope you're well. So in this lecture, let's discuss polynomials. So what are polynomials? So polynomial is any term that has the form an xn plus an minus 1 xn minus 1 plus and so on plus a2 an x power n minus 1 and a2 x square plus a1x plus a0. So this here is an example or the general form of a polynomial. So in this we want to know what is this part. So let's take a simple, just take one part of the polynomial an x power n. So a here an represents the leading coefficient. And x power n here, the n value here represents the degree of the polynomial. And the entire term an x power n represents the leading term. So this here is an example of how to understand the polynomial. So what is a polynomial? So polynomial is where you can write any equation in the form of, or any function in the form of an x power n plus an minus 1 x power n minus 1 plus and so on until a square x square a2 x square plus a1x plus a0. So the values of a, so a represent the constant, x here is the variable. So a is the constant and x is the variable. So where we have consecutive multiples of constant and a variable is what we generally call a polynomial. Now, so remember that n here represents the degree of the polynomial. What is the degree here? Degree is the highest power of x. So degree is the highest power of x. So we call that the degree of the polynomial. Now, so let's take a simple example of a general polynomial. So for example, say you have 3 plus 2x square minus 4x cube. This here is an example of a polynomial. So how can we say it's a polynomial? Number one, it has to have a combination of a constant and a variable. So we do have a constant here and you have a variable here, and there should be multiple terms of them. So there are multiple of them. So if there is no variable there, we call that the constant. So just the constant becomes so this is the 4. When you have it with a variable, we call it the coefficient, and when it is by itself, we call it the constant. Now, in this, what is the leading coefficient? So leading coefficient is the one that's close to the highest power of x. So the highest power of x here is x cube, and the leading coefficient here is 4. So the leading coefficient is 4. So because there is a negative sign, we have to write negative 4. Now what is the degree of the polynomial? So degree of the polynomial is the highest power of x. So the highest power of x, this is the highest power of x, and the power is 3. So the degree of the polynomial is 3. So this is how we can write the degree and the leading coefficient. So let's take another example. Let's say I have 5t power 5 minus 2t cube plus 70. So first things first, how do you know it's a polynomial? Number one, the power should always be, so the power is always an integer. So the power should always be an integer. Only then we can say that it's a polynomial. So we'll learn more about it as we go along in the chapter. But for now, let's look at the next part, which is the leading coefficient. So what is the leading coefficient here? So the leading coefficient here is the one that's attached to the highest power of t. So this is the highest power of t. So the leading coefficient is 5. Now, what is the degree of the polynomial? So the degree of the polynomial is the highest power of x, so which is 5. Now, so for this problem, try finding the, so you're going to find first the leading coefficient. So what is the leading coefficient and what is the degree? Right, so find both. So pause the video here and try to find the leading coefficient and degree of the polynomial. So let's continue. So when we talked about the polynomial, so remember that we talked about a(n) x power n plus and so on plus a2 x square plus a1 x plus a0. If the polynomial has a single term, only one term, for example it just had a(n) x power n, we call that a monomial. If it has two terms, for example a1x plus a2x square, we call this a binomial. And if it has three terms, for example a1x plus a2x square plus a3x cube, we call this a trinomial. Not exactly this example, but you can have it as the number of monomials that are present inside the equation, inside the polynomial. So if it has two monomials, we call that a binomial. If it has three monomials, we call that a trinomial. For example, a1x plus a2. So for example, let's say 5 plus 2x is an example of a binomial. 6 plus 2x plus x square is an example of a trinomial. So each part represents a monomial and the number of monomials gives out the number. So if it has more than 3, only then we call it a polynomial. So only we can then call it a polynomial. So now, so let's continue. Let's discuss the next topic, which is adding and subtracting polynomials. How do you add and how do you subtract polynomials? So there are simply two steps, either to add or subtract. So the first step is combine like terms. So like terms are the ones with the same power. So ones with the same variable power. Number 2, simplify and write in the standard form. So simplify and write in the standard form. So for example, let's take a simple example. Let's say I have 12x square plus 9x minus 21 plus 4x cube plus 8x square minus 5x plus 20. So these are the two polynomials that I have. So the first step is to combine the like terms. What are the like terms here? For example, notice that 12x square and 8x square are like terms. In the same way, 9x and minus 5x are like terms. In the same way, you have minus 21 and plus 20 like terms. Right, and there is no like term with 4x cube, so keep that separately. So we end up with 4x cube plus So the like term 9x and then minus 5x plus, so I'm sorry, let me write the x square term first. So first you have 12x square plus 8x square plus, next you have 9x and minus 5x. So 9x minus 5x. So this is the like part. Minus 21 plus 20. So this is the other like part. So now simplify the equation. So what do you get when you simplify this? We get 4x cube plus 20x square plus 4x minus 1. So 9x minus 5x, we get 4x. 12 plus 8, we get 20. And minus 21 plus 20, you get minus 1. So this is the answer. So the simpler version of this is 4x cube plus 20x square plus 4x minus 1. So let's try another example. So let's try a difference now. So let's try a subtraction now. So let's say you have 7x power 4 minus x square plus 6x plus 1 minus of 5x cube minus 2x square plus 3x plus 2. So whenever you have a minus, it becomes a little tricky. The reason it becomes a little tricky is because we have to minus, with the minus has to be multiplied to every single variable that's inside the parenthesis. So notice that this here is the parenthesis. We have to multiply every single variable with minus. So which means, so the cardinal rule to remember is minus times minus is minus. Minus times plus is minus. Minus times, so plus times minus is minus. Only plus times plus is plus. Sorry, minus times minus is plus. I'm sorry about that. Now let's take the example. So first things first, simplify the equation first. So you have 7x power 4 minus x square plus 6x plus 1. So now multiply minus to everything. So you get minus 5x cube. So minus into plus here. Next you have minus into minus. So that gives you plus 2x square. Next minus into plus, that gives you minus 3x. Next and minus into plus, minus 2. Now start taking up the like terms. The like terms are minus x square and plus 2x square, plus 6x and minus 3x, plus 1 and minus 2. Now, so take 7x power 4 and minus 5x cube separate. Next you have minus x square plus 2x square, plus 6x minus 3x, plus 1 minus 2. Now simplify each of the common terms or the like terms. We get 7x power 4 minus 5x cube. So this is minus 1 plus 2. So minus 1 plus 2 becomes plus 1. So it becomes plus x square plus 6x minus 3x again. 6 minus 3 is 3. So you get 3x plus 1 minus 2. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. So this is the final answer. So this is the final answer. Now, so try the following examples. You have first sum, which is 2x cube plus 5x square minus x plus 1 plus 2x square minus 3x minus 4. So this is the first problem. And the second problem, try minus 7x cube minus 7x square plus 6x minus 2 minus of 4x cube minus 6x square minus x plus 7. So pause the video here and try to solve these two problems. Next, let's discuss how to multiply polynomials. How to multiply polynomials. So the most common way of multiplying is by using the distributive property. So whenever we multiply two terms, how would we multiply two terms? So let's say I have a product 2x plus 1, sorry 2x, I have 2x plus 1 times 3x square minus x plus 4. So how to multiply the distributive property? First, distribute the entire variable and multiply it with 2x first, and then distribute the entire variable and multiply it with 1. So how will you do that? So 2x times 3x square minus x plus 4 plus 1 times 3x square minus x plus 4. So now multiply each variable individually. So you get 2x into 3x square. So now multiply each of the constants and then multiply the variables. So constants are 2 into 3 is 6. X into x square, it becomes x cube. Next 2x into minus x. So again minus comes first, plus into minus. Next 2 stays the same. X into x becomes x square. Next plus 2x into 4. So that becomes 2 times 4 is 8. So 8x plus 1 into 3x square minus x plus 4. Now take up the like terms and separate them individually. So you have minus 2x square plus 3x square plus 8x minus x. So write down the 6x cube minus 2x square plus 3x square plus 8x minus x plus 4. So minus 2 plus 3 is 1. Plus 8x minus x is plus 7. So you have 6x cube plus x square plus 7x plus 4. So this is the final answer for multiplying the two values. So one another way of doing this is to write down as a table. So one another way, let me show you that way. So what you can do is you can split it into a table. So the number of columns is decided by the number of monomials in each of the polynomial. So for example, we have 2x plus 1 times 3x square minus x plus 4. So what you can do here, take the first term and write down the individual values, so 2x and plus 1. On the rows you write each of these individual monomials, so 3x square minus x and plus 4. Now multiply each column and write down the variable behind it. So for writing this, multiply the column and the row. So 3x square into 2x, so you get 6x cube. 2x into minus x, you get minus 2x square. 2x into 4, you get 8x. Plus 1 into 3x square, we get 3x square minus x and plus 4. Write down each of the individual variables and add them up. So the adding part combinedly will become your answer. So every diagonal value, add them up, so the like terms. So the first value is 6x cube. 3x square minus x square, so plus x square. Minus x plus 8x is plus 7x. Next you have, this is, so it becomes 8x. So you have minus plus 7x, next plus 4. That's your final answer. So it's the exact same answer, but you can do it in another method as well, if you are not comfortable with the original method of distribution. Now, let's talk about one common one that you will see is how to multiply binomials. The binomials, remember, are two monomials. For example, let's say I have ax plus b into cx plus d. The method that we use is called FOIL. So F, O, I and L. So F represents the first terms, outer terms, inner terms and last terms. So how do we multiply each of them? So let me write down the rule. So first rule is first term. So the first terms here is, this value is, first term is ax, second value is cx. So multiply these two first. This represents f. Next, outer terms are AX and D, right? So these represent O. Next, inner terms are B and CX, this is I, and the last terms are B and D, so that represents the last terms. So when you multiply the first terms, you get AX times CX, that becomes ACX square. The outer terms, you get AX into D, that becomes ADX. Inner terms is B into CX, that becomes BCX, and the last terms is B into D, that is equal to BD. Now when you want to do the final one, add all of them up, so that becomes ACX square plus ADX plus BCX plus BD. Right. Let's take a simple example of this and try to find the answer. Now let's try the first again, FOIL, the first terms, so the outer terms, the inner terms, and the last terms. This is the F, O, I, and then yeah. So the first terms, when you multiply the first terms, you get 2x into 3x plus the outer terms are 2x into 3 plus the inner terms are minus 18 into 3x plus the outer terms are minus 18 into 3. So 2x into 3x becomes 6x square plus 6x minus 54x. So 18 times 3 is 54. So minus 54. Now write down the final answer. So 6x square minus 48x minus 54. So this is the answer for the problem. So this is how you can do, use the FOIL method. So try the following example. So try multiplying x plus 7 times 3x minus 5. So pause the video right here and try to solve this problem. Next, let's try perfect square trinomials. So perfect square trinomials are basically where you try to find out what is the perfect square of two like monomials. For example, you have x plus a times x plus a. We can also write this as x plus a square. So the formula for this is x square plus 2 times x times a plus a square. This here is an example of the perfect square trinomial. So if you want to, you can try the following problem. So you can do two formulas here. This is x plus a. X minus a square is x square minus 2 times x times a plus a square. So the next one is difference in squares. So let's say I have two monomials that are conjugate to each other. So x plus a into x minus a. So the formula is x square minus a square. So these are formulas, the common algebraic formulas that you will generally see. So just in case, so that you remember it for a long time. So try the problem.